Welcome to B-Flow Sessions, the podcast where we help you find and stay in the flow on the water and in life. I'm your host, Brad Burton. Join me as I sit down with paddlers, athletes, and adventurers who are all seeking the flow. B-Flow Sessions is brought to you by our friends at Pucon Kayak Retreat. Are you dreaming of a Chilean whitewater escape this winter? Picture turquoise rapids, warm sunny days, and world-class rivers for every skill level, all based out of a riverside retreat built by paddlers for paddlers. If that sounds like your kind of winter, then Pucon Kayak Retreat is the place. To learn more or to book your dream kayak trip, reach out to me directly at bflowkayak@gmail.com and I'll help you get connected. B-Flow Sessions is powered by Dagger Kayaks. Wherever there's water, Dagger Kayaks will help you find your flow. Team-tested, paddler-proven designs for all paddlers and all water. And thanks to our partners at Sawyer Paddles, Stohlquist PFDs, and Level 6 Gear for keeping us in the flow. Welcome to the next episode of B-Flow Sessions, and been really fortunate to have some of my old friends that I used to travel and compete with and paddle with, and joined by another one today, and one of the best kayakers of all time, and one of the most decorated freestyle athletes in U.S. history, a 7-time member of the U.S. national team, a bronze medalist in 2001, got on the podium for national champions and competed in those big water, crazy whitewater Grand Prix in the teens. Welcome to B-Flow Sessions, Bryan, the Captain Kirk.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here, man.
Yeah, it took a little bit of arm twisting, but I finally got you on.
Yeah. You know, stress with the job. Yeah, life complications in general. But you got me on, so the stars have aligned.
That's right. So, Bryan, tell us, how'd you find your flow in kayaking?
Yeah, great question. So I would say I initially found my flow out on the Potomac. When I was probably 8 or 9 years old, started attaining Mather Gorge on the Potomac in a slalom boat, following my dad up this really cool box gorge, which is Mather Gorge, which is the whole lead up. It's like a mile-long stretch up to Great Falls, and it's an amazing. The river is perfect for attaining. It's just the rapids are just almost built for attaining at all different levels. So yeah, just kind of got in the groove, and we kind of got into a routine where we would just put on the river down at Old Anglers Inn, and then he would set the pace, and I would kind of learn from watching his technique, his smoothness, and we just kind of get into the groove. And there wasn't even a whole lot of talking. We were just both out there, like in the zone, just in the moment. Not a care about anything else off the river in the rest of the world. We were just like, this is where it's at. This is it.
But I mean, from there, continued to evolve as a kayaker, and started to get into more like extreme stuff, and then freestyle, and kind of bridge the gap between there. And I'm going to ask you about your Virginia Tech days too. So kind of take us through that evolution.
Yeah. So did a lot of attaining back in the day. Like I said, with my dad on the Potomac, and he taught me how to roll on the Potomac at a real young age. Then I started hopping into shorter plastic boats, like the Corsica S. I know that's not a short boat, but compared to my 4-meter slalom boat, that was a short boat. Started side surfing every hole I could find on the river once I learned how to roll. And then in '96, for my high school graduation present, my mom got me the Dagger RPM when it was brand new, and I just looked at it and I was like, that thing is silly. It's so short. That's not even a kayak. Like nothing will ever be shorter than the RPM, and it was like 9 feet.
Yep.
So I got in that, and really that my surfing, that just fired me up on surfing everything and trying to get vertical. and
Yeah.
working on. I was looking at some of the other really good legends of the Potomac, like Gil Rocha, Paul Shelp, Dave Collins, and watching their stern squirt techniques. And I was like 17 and just messing around trying to get it vertical and trying to learn how to cartwheel. I met Luke Hopkins at Center Shoot on the Potomac. He was
Okay.
in a Scorpion and Lincoln Ends,
Oh,
and I was like, that is what I want to do. And that's when I was still in the Corsica S, and I had never seen anything like that. But I was like, we were fast friends, and I was like, I want to be like that guy. I want to link cartwheels because that's the coolest thing I've ever seen anyone do in a kayak. Just big, tall vertical ends. So did that. Went to Virginia Tech. Um, and a big reason I chose Virginia Tech was it was in the mountains. New River was right down the road, a site of the New River Rodeo, which they used to
hmm
have for a bunch of years, which was a
yeah.
big stop on the national tour, the national freestyle
Yeah.
circuit. So all the big names would arrive in May. Uh, just and I was like this unknown, just like college kid with an RPM and all like Pablo Perez, Clay Wright, BJ Johnson. They would get there and just be hucking ends, EJ. And
Yeah.
so after the first year of '96, I was like, whoa, these guys are serious about. And so I upgraded to the Waysport X.
Mm.
And that was just like mind blowing how loose that hull was for its time. Coming from the
Yeah.
RPM to a planing hull was just mind blowing. And it
Right.
was an epic cartwheeling boat, just super
Yeah.
balanced. And so every day after class, and even during classes where I should have been in class, I basically majored in kayaking
Yeah.
when I was at Virginia Tech. Uh, um, but I was down there and just, I mean, I must have, yeah, done like a session every day for, you know,
And you had quite the crew there with you. I know you maybe a few
yeah,
years older than Andrew Holcomb got there, and but some other guys, and
yeah.
you guys had pretty hard charging crew there.
Oh yeah. When I first my first year at VT, Jimmy Blakeney was there.
Yeah.
So he I met him down at McCoy Falls, down in the new, and he taught me how to split wheel. Gave me some tips on Lincoln ends, and he got me into videoing what we were doing and watching the technique later and kind of
Yeah.
discussing how we could improve, staying ahead of the kayak when it's rotating, how to, be more retentive when you're hooking ends, um, and possible mistakes we were making. So that was a huge help. And then of course,
Mm.
Luke Hopkins, he came to Tech a year after I was there. So of course, paddle with him all the time.
Yeah.
And then Andrew Holcomb enrolled. So we had just a wild crew, and a bunch of other kayakers, Joe Pugh,
Right.
Janet Dwyer, Andrew Oberhart, Ned Trice, just a ton of cool dudes to just go. And we had a local creek, Johns Creek, and we'd always go up to Fayetteville, which was like an hour and 45 minutes away. So I hit the New River and the Gauley. So I was thinking about kayaking much more so than getting my major and going into a career. So I got through tech with just enough of a GPA to get my BS in mining and minerals engineering, and
Okay.
I never actually went into that field. I did a summer internship my last couple summers at Virginia Tech at a rock quarry, and they made me an offer there, and it was for working um, 12-hour days, um, Monday through Friday. So it was like 60 plus hour work weeks, um, year round with no vacation for 42,000 a year. And I didn't even respond to their offer.
No.
I was just like, this is just like a joke. How can you be serious? Would anyone accept this? And so I think I made the right choice. So I just drove out to Colorado, when I got out of college and did the circuit and went creeking, ran OBJ, Pine Creek, all the goods, and just never looked back. Never looked back. And so,
That was like 2001 then, or 2000?
yeah, so I graduated Virginia Tech in May of 2000. And yeah, basically just I actually stayed living in Blacksburg where Virginia Tech was because I had so many kayaking friends there and I already had a place to live with cool roommates. So I based my kayaking and training for the US team and the US team trials, which was coming up, the IR Triple Crown 2001.
Yeah.
And the main event there was Rock Island. So I basically spent almost the whole winter of 2000 into 2001 camping out the back of my pickup truck down in Rock Island State Park
Yeah.
with a triple X, just dialing in the spot. Just shooting video, watching video afterwards, hanging out with Eric Southwick, EJ Clay, um, bunch of these legends that I was looking up to for years, and they were giving me tips on how to link more ends, and then yeah, I kind of dialed in a ride that I'd probably done. I did the math. I looked at the scoring system. I was like, what are my best moves there? I did a blunt, then came back and did another blunt to split wheel into like 15 righty ends, and then we came back and did a back blunt on a surfer's left into some more righty ends, into splitting and back to the lefty ends, and I could do that ride consistently
Hmm.
because I just knew the spot so well. I was like a local there. And
Right.
the triple X was the boat for that hole, just
For sure.
maintaining control. So yeah, did that. Second at the team trials there at the IR Triple Crown. Went on to the Worlds where I placed third in I think that was early July 2001 over in Spain. So that kind of that placing at the IR Triple Crown and then doing the podium, getting a podium spot at the 2001 Worlds, that kind of put my name on the map in
Sure.
terms of getting sponsored, support. And from that point on, my gas was paid for just going to kayak events. I wasn't,
Right.
and like free kayaks and gas money and entry fees. So that's all I needed,
Yep.
and it was nothing more
That's
than
all
that.
we
And
needed.
yeah, and it wasn't a ton of money. I was still eating PB and J and ramen and stuff, but at least I could travel to go kayaking. So that's all I
Right.
cared about. I mean, just nothing else. I was just fully addicted.
If my memory serves me right, like you did like you said X, triple X, but then didn't you transition over to Dagger for a while and then back to waist sport?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So after I, made the U.S. team at Rock Island in the Triple X, I was actually kind of hanging out with. I had a bunch of friends on Team Perception at the time.
Hmm.
Like Andrew Holcomb,
Sure.
best buddy from Virginia Tech, and I had hopped in his amp and his shock, and I knew that I liked the boats. And Clay was there, and Shane Benedict. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, Veronica. I guess I think she was the team P
Yeah.
manager at the time. She kind of made me an offer, around that team trials to like, pay for my flight to Worlds, free boats,
Wow.
and like a pretty nice little travel budget and all my entry fees paid for. And I just, I had been with Waysport boats up until that point, um, but I could not, for some reason, I just could not get any support at that time, like actual
Well,
team
their
support.
team was pretty big at that time.
Yeah, totally. And the team manager at the time, I didn't really like know him. I didn't have a relationship with him, and I think I don't know, he was just like, "Sorry, buddy." So I went to team Perception and
Yeah.
did that for a couple of years until I think it was Watermark
Yeah.
um, basically ended Perception's whitewater team and any production of whitewater kayaks, and they made them flatwater and touring kayaks only. And
No.
at that
Yeah.
point, I was out with the Perception RV in on the Wenatchee River with Clay and Christy Dobson and some other folks just surfing the Wenatchee. Epic surf, by the way, at high water, the Wenatchee in Washington.
Yeah.
Um, and we got the news out there, and it was like crushing news.
Yeah.
It was just like so. We were like, what do we do now? Like,
Yeah.
there
What
are
do we
this.
do with this RV?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so we just kept paddling. I started paddling a bunch of different boats, everything from like Piranha S6, the Dagger Kingpin. Actually, signed up with Dagger after that. It was just kind of like sister corporation at the time, and I had some friends at Team Dagger, and so and that was a big, that's always been a big trend of mine is like if I have a bunch of good buddies on a certain team, I'm much more apt to go there. So I
Right.
went over to Dagger, and the Kingpin was amazing for its time, and the CFS. So
Yep.
yeah, I did Dagger for a couple years, and then Jimmy Blakeney took over as team manager. EJ left Waysport, and Jimmy Blakeney took over as team manager.
Let's eddy out and take a quick break. Do you need a break from the cold of a North American winter? Then let's head south to the best whitewater on earth at Pucon Kayak Retreat. Email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com to learn more about how you can take the ultimate paddling adventure in the heart of Chile. Now let's peel out and head downstream.
And
Okay.
Robert Pearson took over the lead design for Wavesport, and came out with the
Yeah.
ZG and the Diesel. And the
Hmm.
ZG just was head and shoulders above anything else that existed, and it was
Wow.
just dominating for its time, and that was like 2004. So
Okay.
I so Jimmy basically convinced me to switch over to Waysport because I was roommates with him ever since I graduated. Ever since after the World Championships in 2001, I moved into the wet house with Jimmy and Erica in Fayetteville. Erica
Okay.
Mitchell, Jimmy Blakeney. So
Yeah.
it was kind of logical to, be in the same team, get to shoot video and, get all this media, go paddling with Jimmy all the time and the rest of Team Waysport. Um,
Right.
and yeah, so I basically stuck it out with Waysport till the end of Waysport in the US, which was
Right.
2015 or 2016. I think it might have been 20 or early 2016. They kind of announced that they were doing a European only thing. So
Right. So have you been free bird since then? Just buy whatever boat you like?
yeah, and living at the Potomac, I've I've kind of gone back to my roots on linking ends, and I've always had an affinity for big ends. Which is boats that are 8 feet and uh, up to 4 meter slalom boat. And the Potomac is such a high volume river, such a massive drainage that the features out there in the Potomac are big, deep, and powerful. To where you can get a 4 meter slalom boat linking big vertical cartwheels and you're not hitting the rock.
Yeah.
Same thing with
And
the old. Yeah, go ahead.
you've kind of become
Mhm.
like you have this reemergence in your popularity in kayaking since you've started posting these big, huge ends. They're getting a lot of media attention for sure.
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised. I mean, I had no idea. When I was living in Reno, Nevada for about a year, a few years back, and I had a Waysport X, and I posted a couple of videos out there at the Reno Park and further downstream in Sparks Whitewater Park. And there's a couple of really good holes there when the water's up. And I posted some video of linking cartwheels and split wheels in the X, and people were like, "Yeah, old school rules."
Yeah.
They were like, "Big
Yeah.
ends look so good," and I was like, "Right on, I agree." So I moved back to the Potomac, and I already had a bunch of boats back here that were like long And then the Potomac is a like a treasure chest of classic designs.
Right.
And the just the Mid-Atlantic as a whole, and looking at Facebook Marketplace and just the gems I've picked up locally, like a
Yeah.
Savage Fury, old Savage Scorpion, the Necky Jive, um, the yeah, Piranha Blade, um, Eskimo Speedo. But these are all boats. I'm gravitating towards boats that are both 8 feet and up,
Yeah.
but also well balanced. And the volume
Sure.
distribution has got to be just right for cartwheeling. So not
Right.
too much volume out at the ends, at the very tips of the boat, because then
Right.
it just takes too much leverage, to get it
Yeah.
going. Whereas you could have a 10-foot boat like the Scorpion, but the ends of that thing are like a needle.
Right.
So it just goes under, and you just keep it on edge and keep your body ahead of the boat, and it let the river do the work. Just let the river take over, and it just goes. It just links.
Right. That's
It's
awesome.
yeah, it's my favorite feeling out there.
Well, speaking of favorite feeling, let's talk about perfect flow. Tell me about a day on the water when everything was just perfect and epic.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think about in terms of just perfection on the water, just a perfect day is, I lived in Fayetteville, West Virginia, which whitewater mecca, in my opinion. It's the ultimate. Uh, and New River Gorge is the staple. Runs year round, never gets too low. Of course, it gets never too high. But if it's like a medium, just a fun medium level, like 10,000 CFS or 5 feet on the gauge. I've had a couple of days out there at 10 grand with my best buddies there, like Shane Groves, Jimmy Blakeney, Kelsey Thompson, um, and a number of other guys, Dan, Tom, Pete, Kelsey. I think I already said Kelsey, but going down that river with a crew of guys that are into spending literally 4 or 5 hours out there and stopping at every spot and just cheering each other on, just trying to go as big as possible. And it's an underrated playground. It's like the Ottawa
Right.
at 10
Yeah.
grand. It's just the whole
Yeah.
way down the river is nothing but just the most perfect wave trains for macho moves, kick flips. And then of course you've got like, eddy service, epic surf spots. It's just the ultimate, and it's just such a beautiful gorge. It's the second oldest river in the world, and it's just got so much history there, and it's just like heaven on earth. It really is.
Yeah. Cool. What about the opposite of that? I call it flood, a day where things did not go so well.
So that would definitely be this a day where I went out there, and we had just gotten a huge rain. It was Fayetteville in the winter, which can have some brutally cold days. Just big snows. Of course, it's like a couple thousand feet elevation, so it gets cold. But we had a big rain, and then of course it turned to snow um, after that rain. Mans Creek has a webcam, so the webcam was working even though it was like mid-teens that next morning, and
Mm.
we had probably gotten, I don't know, I think up there in Babcock State Park at the put in of Mans was probably almost 2 feet of snow, and it was still snowing.
Wow.
And it was mid-teens, it was windy, and we were pretty concerned about just the temperature, obviously, but also like potential for new wood coming down with like ice and
Mm.
snow weight on the river. So we had a core group of three. So in the winter there, the group of potential candidate kayakers gets smaller, especially as the temperature
Sure.
drops. So I was able to talk Shane Groves and Stuart Caldwell into joining me on an epic mission, and it turned into a little bit too epic of a mission. Um, but running Mans Creek into the New River Gorge at 80,000 CFS, all the way down and paddling the Hawks Nest Lake Dam and portaging the Hawks Nest Dam, and then continuing down the New River Dries at 80 grand. And then, so we basically set this super shuttle. We dropped the car all the way down in Gauley Bridge um, on this day where it's still snowing, and drove all the way up to the put in of Mans Creek, which is a lot of elevation gain up into,
Right.
you know, I mean, it might be 1,000 feet above, the takeout of the dries is where you're putting in up at Mans Creek. And it was just so cold. And I was wearing two union suits, and I was wearing mittens inside of my pogies. The full like
Wow.
dry suit. I was just prepared for anything, and it's a good thing because so the three of us, we were going down. We didn't really see any new wood, and we got to this best booth on the creek. It's called Goliath, and we just bombed right off of it without really like trying to peek over the lip, see what was at the bottom, and that turned out to be a huge mistake because all three of us ended up underneath this brand new, it's like pickup sticks, just like this huge log pile. Um,
Oh,
and I was the third one to go off, and we were kind of we were dumb. We in hindsight's always 2020, but we just kind of
sure.
like went off in succession. And I remember getting to the lip of this thing, the point of no return, and I was looking down, and I saw these guys like, I saw their boats, and I saw them just like crawling out from under this log pile. And I tried to boof to the side so I wouldn't land on Shane. And I ended up boofing and doing almost like a rail slide, and then going like under the log that I was, rail grinding, and then landing under this log pile upside down. Came out of my boat because there was like no rolling under this thing, and luckily looking back now, we can kind of like laugh about it. But
Sure.
it could have easily been a lot worse. Because it
Yeah.
was Mans Creek didn't have a ton of water in it, so we were able to like collect our boats, get, just kind of like wade out from under this log pile. But it was probably like 15 new trees down with all these, like medium-sized trees, just all in this like
Right.
jumble that we were fully like up
Oh,
underneath. It was just ridiculous. So after that, we were like, screw this, we're hiking out.
yeah.
So we proceeded to like trudge through this couple of feet of snow in a dry suit back to the put in. So we were, so we tied our boats on the put in vehicle. We were driving back down towards Fayetteville, and we were like, no, let's not just get totally skunked today. We still want to paddle. So we were like, let's go to Tudor's Biscuit World and refuel, get warmed up, get a rocket, which is like this big gut bomb sandwich, get some hot coffee, and we'll just go put in at the, put in of the dries. And we've already got shuttle set for the dries. So we did that, and it was 80,000 on the dries. And it was amazing until this rapid called Mile Long. And it's named that because it's a super long rapid. But
Right.
that rapid is it's also a little bit feared because like, if something happens, you can't get out of the river for like a long way. It's just going, and the waves are massive. So this one massive breaking wave crashed right onto the deck of my creek boat, and still mid-teens. So my spray skirt was not exactly super elastic. So it was basically turning into ice at that point, my spray skirt. So it came right off my boat, and my boat was immediately full of water, in 80,000 CFS. These boils actually sucked the boat right down off my legs, and I was suddenly, just sitting kind of there in the same position, hands, in my gloves and within my pogies. I was still gripping my paddle in my pogies, but without a kayak on my legs any longer. So I was like, my instinct just kicked in, and I started just I kept doing kayak strokes, which it turned out to be a really efficient way to get around in that big water. Like if your hands are
Yeah.
still on your paddle, I was just doing like big vertical paddle
Yeah.
strokes, and it actually was a good way to propel around, like way more efficient than trying to swim and kick with a dry suit on. It's
Right.
um so that worked really well, and I was able to, get to the base of this rapid and catch this really big eddy down there on River Right. And I was able to get over this really swirly eddy line and up to the shore, just, keeping my hands in my pogies and paddling. And got up there. Shane and Stuart, got into that eddy with me, and they were like, "Holy crap, what happened? Like, where's your boat?" And I was like, "Dude, I think it's gone." I mean, because I hadn't seen it at that point in like a couple minutes. So we were hanging out there, just looking down in the eddy, looking downstream for this boat. And we started talking about a way for me to hike out, and I was about to hop on, I think, Stewart's boat, who's going to ferry me across above Landslide Rapid to the railroad tracks, and I was just going to walk down the railroad tracks to the takeout.
Right.
Um, but right when I was about to get on his boat, my creek boat, my little Habitat, it came along this eddy line. It was just, you could just see the tip of it. So it was vertical underwater, and only like maybe 8 inches of it were out of the water, just swirling around. And it was
Oh
just
my
going along
gosh.
this eddy line. So those guys chased it down and were able to get it to the shore. And I was able to get back in it and complete the run, and without my skirt coming off again, luckily. But I was definitely trying to dodge any breaking wave because my spray skirt was not cooperating. It was basically, if any other crasher wave, would have landed on it, the same thing would happen again. So I was just like taking the sneak route. I was like, oh, there's the big crasher waves. I'm going that way. It's like the only time I've ever snuck rapids on the new was like when the spray skirt wouldn't, a fly could have landed on it that day and it would have just come right off. It was just, yeah, just a sheet of solid. It was just ice. It was ridiculous.
That is that is epic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was an
Wow.
epic day, and that's the only day I've swam twice in the same day, and it was for two completely different reasons for those swims.
Right.
But it
Oh,
was crazy. It was wild. Um,
epic.
oh
Oh
man,
my gosh. Well, you've kind of told us about current, with the your paddling on Potomac now, and in the big boats and throwing the hucking ends. So I want to go on to advice that you would give to paddlers, and I want you to think about two groups of paddlers. One, a new beginning paddler of any age, and then
yeah,
another, an old guy or girl, maybe in their 30s, 40s, and they left the sport and they're getting back into it.
yeah, yeah. For the newer guys and gals, getting into it, trying to improve, I would say, don't rush things.
Mm,
Work, just take your progression very gradually, and just keep things fun, because what I've learned over the years is when I'm paddling within my skill level, that's maximizing my fun levels. And so when I'm like, for example, out on the New River Gorge, it's usually like class 2, 3 run. But I was always looking for ways to make the river as hard as humanly possible.
yeah.
So, if there was some ferry that was incredibly difficult, to making this little micro eddy into peeling out of that and trying to go through a little slot, obviously not, obviously a relatively safe slot, like
Right.
watch out for undercuts and stuff, but stuff like that where you can really almost make class 4, 5 moves, but in a class, 1 through 3 environment,
Right.
and it's actually a lot of fun because you can really
It
push
is.
yourself and challenge yourself, and you can do it with your friends. You can almost make it like a little competition, like, oh, let's try to make that ferry, into surfing that wave, into peeling off it, and trying for that other little little eddy and slot. But you can make it really fun. But that is just a really safe way to get good quickly. Also,
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent, obviously, of play in the river, play boating.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to, get in features, hop in features, learn to side surf, get tossed around. It can
Yeah.
be a little unnerving at first, but that'll get you a really solid roll on both sides.
Yeah.
If you're just continuously flipping over, getting tossed around, and it'll teach you to get out of different orientations of your, boat, paddle, and body, different circumstances. So if you do get
Right.
worked, out there on the Russell Fork or something, or on the green, you're going to be able to stay composed and be like, all right, I got this. So
Exactly.
you're gonna be able to hop on harder runs as a more athletic boater, just coming into those harder skill level runs, and you're going to be confident and safer and having more fun.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, and I'd say for like for older, maybe older boaters, I would say um, get out there and do some soul surfing. Feel free to join me, but I know that for myself personally, my risk to reward ratio has changed drastically, like over
Hmm.
the last even just 5 years. Um, so I'm really just looking at ways to just feel the river in the boat that I'm in. I'm like hopping in these old planing hull boats like the Necky Rip, and just feeling out the way that it carves, and feeling out different techniques of how to make the boat break free as easily as possible and get spins and
Right.
blunts. Um, but I would say just get out there and make think about the sport as just a lifelong activity for
Yeah.
just getting out there and getting in the groove, finding your flow, and just forgetting about all else.
Yeah. 1,000% agree. Going back to the current real quick, speaking of, finding the groove and the flow with the paddle in the water, tell us about the Captain Kirk design on accent paddles.
Yeah, yeah. So that I've actually been bugging the guys at Accent for a little while now about bringing back this classic blade shape, which Lee Bonfilio designed way back in the day, when he was at during his fluid technology and lightning days. So going like
Hmm.
way back, like 20 plus years ago. Um, and it's become just a classic and a favorite shape of mine for freestyle. Um, but it's also really good for all around just river running as well. Like going
Right.
down the gully, because it actually has the same exact surface area as it's more as the their Nomad and the Gravity blades from Accent, but it's a more
Hmm.
compact sort of more centralized shape. So you're getting a lot fewer boat strikes. It's just a lot more agile and quicker feeling and more precise where you want to plant your blade. For example, for a phonics monkey, for doing the cross bow stroke, planting your paddle for the, initiating something like a phonics monkey.
Sure.
Your blade is not really contacting your boat nearly as much as a more conventional, downriver shaped blade.
Right.
So it's just a lot smoother, more agile feeling design, if that makes sense.
Very
Um,
cool.
so yeah, and of course it's optimized for backstrokes as well, like doing blunts, stern squirts, stuff of that nature. So and it also has the world's only fully hollow, seamless carbon bent shaft. So there's no gap in the middle, which is a complete first in paddle technology, which it's ridiculously light, and the swing weight of the paddle is just is phenomenal. And I've got an older AT2 paddle. When I go back and forth between the two, I mean, my old AT2 feels like a brick, and I
I
used to
bet.
love that paddle. But yeah, the Captain Kirk is I'm yeah very very fired up on this thing. So
Well, yeah, congratulations on that and best of luck on that. It looks really cool.
yeah, appreciate it.
Um, so our next segment is we call it the rapids. So we're going to run some rapids. You know, I've ran lots of rapids together, but
Yeah,
another type of rapids here. So this is rapid fire. I'm going to throw out a topic in kayaking, and you give me your Mount Rushmore. So your top like 3 to 5 favorites of these different topics. All right, and I mean you could really speak to this because you've paddled so many different boats. Boat designs of all time.
oh man, number one, Triple X. Um, yeah, it's epic. Um, I would say the ZG, both sizes of the old Waysport Zero Gravity ZG, the 48 and 54, epic, epic design there in terms of looseness and balance for cartwheeling. It's just such it's the best all around playboat of all time, in my opinion. It's just phenomenal, phenomenal. It does everything. Necky Rip, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. It has the feel of it kind of paddles around like a short slalom boat.
Hmm.
So you can kind of pivot that stern under, and it rockets you out of these pivot turns, just like a slalom
Yeah.
boat. But it's a planing haul. It's like, it's basically one of the first production planing hauls. It's between this and the Savage Fury. So it goes way back, and they hit the nail on the head with the Necky Rip. In terms of, it's 9'3", so it'll surf any wave. And
Right.
if you've got a local wave that looks, it's a glassy wave that's kind of flat and you've never even considered spinning on it, hop in a Necky Rip because it's going to be fast
Mm.
enough to spin on anything, and do blunts even. So, and a blunt in a 9'3" boat is not something a whole lot of people have seen before or thought about, but this boat does it, even though it's from like 1994, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, 30-year-old, over a 30, it's 32 years old boat, and can do vertical, even air blunts. So it's just phenomenal. Yeah, and then the X would have to be on my list. That's just a boat that's very special to me. It was just mind blowing. I went on a mission to drive a long way to pick that up when it first came out in 1998. It was the only one I could find on the entire East Coast. It was up in like northern Pennsylvania. So I drove up there and reserved it. It was an all black one, and just the way it linked ends, it was just took my
Nice.
boating to a whole nother level. And just how loose it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that and
Okay.
yeah, Project X is in there in terms of short play boats.
Okay.
So, but yeah,
All right.
that's good for me
That's
with kayaks.
That's a good list. Um, what about rivers or play spots? Like you could do either one.
Um, yeah, I would say rivers, Golly. I just living there all those years, tons of laps. Anns Creek, it was my home creek for a bunch of years. It's just a true classic. It must have 100 Class 5 rapids on it and hundreds of really good booths. And it's just that creek is a workout. It's a mental and physical workout. It's an epic place. Mill Creek, which a lot of people aren't super familiar with, the Mill Creek that flows down into the New, sort of in between the New River Gorge and the Dries. That's just a
Okay.
underrated gem, Mill Creek,
Hmm.
if you ever get a chance.
Okay.
So and that'll run when Mans Creek is a little bit on the high side. You just go over to Mill Creek.
Okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful. North Fork Blackwater into the Lower B. That's a stretch of river that is has I've had a few of my best all-time days on North Fork Blackwater into the Lower B. So it's like 12 miles of just wilderness, just quality whitewater, waterfalls, surf, even on the Lower B. It's got everything. Let's see.
And where's that at?
That's in northern West Virginia, out near
Okay.
Canaan Valley, even.
Okay.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and I think it's probably one of the longer sections of just continuous undammed whitewater, in the on the East Coast at least. So
Okay.
yeah, a true gem.
So I've got a new one I want to ask people. I'm going to give you a couple different regions of the country, and you tell me. I think I know you may be a little biased here, but you tell me what region has the best all around whitewater. So the Southeast, like Asheville to NOC to Chattanooga, the Mid Atlantic will go DC over to the Golly, the Northeast, and then we'll go Colorado, Northern Rockies, PNW.
Now this,
Those are your options.
okay, and sorry, the connection broke up a little bit there, but this was a region that I think has the best whitewater.
Yeah, best all around whitewater. Like you can look at like variety,
Yeah.
also like access, like year
Oh
round,
man.
availability of paddlers, like to get a crew.
Yeah. I would say I would have to give it to the Mid-Atlantic. And I know
Okay.
a lot of people would laugh at that because the mountains aren't as epic, as the Rockies or the Sierra Nevada. And it doesn't have the overnighters of out west. But I'm looking at, if you want to paddle every day of the year,
Mm-hmm.
it's there, whether you live in Fayetteville, Richmond, or around the Great Falls area, you're paddling every day of the year, which I kind of need that. Um, Fayetteville, West Virginia, there's no other place I've ever heard of with the sheer amount of variety of literally every type of whitewater within about a 20-mile radius
Yeah.
of one point. And Fayetteville's got it. Everything from some of the best surf in the world on the drives to the steepest, most technical creeks, as well as beautiful slides, waterfalls, um, to like the Gauley and the Meadow, which is like, medium volume, just amazing river running. It's got it all right there, and you have to drive very little to get about 20 epic runs. So whatever you're in the mood for, it's got it there. If you want 800 feet per mile creek, you got it. So
Yeah. Countries of all time. Have you? I don't know how much have you paddled internationally, but I know you've done
yeah,
some. But
quite
what
a
about
bit.
your favorite countries?
Yeah, I would say my favorite country, well, number one, USA. Just I mean, it's just such a big country with such variety. It's hard to beat it. Plus, I'm biased. Also, Chile. I've only taken one trip down there, but just exploring the zone around Pucon.
Yeah.
Um, the Rio Nevado was an instant uh, favorite of mine of all time. Uh, Fully epic place. Um, Costa Rica, been down there a couple times.
Okay.
Just so many good, it's just tropical, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
You've got some, monkeys and yeah, it's got everything too. Everything from big water to Reventazon to waterfalls. I mean, whatever you're in the mood
Sure.
for. New
Yeah.
Zealand is up there too.
Mm, yeah.
Particularly the South Island around Hokitika,
Yeah.
and doing some of the heli runs there. Um, yeah, you can't beat it. Got snow-capped peaks, on I guess they call them the Southern Alps. There's some of those
Right.
snow-capped peaks on the South Island that just are and you find yourself into the most beautiful gorges on the planet. There with
Right.
jade, infused into the bedrock of these
Mm.
box canyons. Yeah, it's just phenomenal.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, the controversial one. You really tap you into your history bank here. Kayakers of all time.
Oh, oh man, that well, my number one would have to be my dad because he got me into
Okay.
whitewater, and yeah, he kind of got me. Yeah, I caught the bug from him, I guess, and he taught me about appreciation of technique, and just being safe out there and having a good time. So finding flow. Um, but there are a few guys I used to really look up to just from, I used to watch a lot of you know, kayak videos back in the day. Everything from like the old playboating videos to like falling down. But Mark Lyle,
Yeah.
just the way he could huck around some of these older, longer boats and do like, 15-point cartwheels in hellhole. The
Yep.
guy was just a freestyle animal. So yeah, definitely a legend. Also Clay and BJ, Clay Wright, BJ Johnson, just in the whole Fallen Down Productions series of movies. I mean, I collected all those and wore out those VHS tapes all through my college years.
Mm-hmm.
My first creek boat was a Micro 230 that I was definitely inspired to pick up that boat just from watching Fallen Down. I was like that is the boat to have for creeking. So
For sure.
yeah,
All right. So the last question, Brian. This is final flow. The river gods have come down and they said, the bad news is this is your last day ever in a kayak. But the good news is you get to be in your prime skill and body, and you get to pick your boat, you get to pick your river, and you get to pick your crew.
oh
What
man,
do you got?
that is a tough one. Oh man, I would have to say I'm in the ZG 48, um, and back when I was an ideal weight for that boat. Because right now I'm in the ZG 54, so I'm like 165 pounds. But when I was paddling the ZG 48, I was like 125 pounds, and that boat was just that combination was uh, a thing, a special combination there. If you're that weight, hop in a ZG 48. Um, on the New River Gorge at 5 feet, ultimate play level, you've got about 15 world-class play spots and all the Macho Move spots. Just perfect, beautiful springtime flows. But I I can't narrow it down to just a few people. I would say every paddler I've ever run that river with and had a blast playboating down that river. Um, so everyone I've ever roommated with in the wet house, um, or just enjoyed boating with down that run, and all those guys and gals, they know who they are. So yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that would be my dream.
I love it. For people that I have like a history and connection with, I always like to tell a personal story that we shared together. And I forgot to do this at the beginning. But do you remember loading up the NOC van to go to the Coosa Rodeo and driving down the interstate? All of our boats decided they needed a little warm up and started doing cartwheels down the interstate.
I do remember that. That was fully epic. I remember I had my shock there that just gotten from when I had first gotten on Team Perception. And I remember picking up the front of it, and I looked at the underside of the bow, and it was worn, it was ground down with like a grinder. But luckily, it was paper thin, but it didn't go all the way through, so it was still
Yeah.
watertight. So I was like, yes, it's still paddleable.
Yeah. I can't remember who else was in that crew, and it was me, you, and Holcomb. I can't remember who else, but it was a crew of us, and we left the NOC to go there, and somehow or another, our boats did not stay on, and they literally were cartwheeling down
Oh
the
man,
interstate.
I am glad you brought that up. That was epic. I have not thought about that day in quite a while, but yeah, that was maybe most interesting occurrence on a road trip, while on route to someplace. Because that was a bunch of boats that went flying, and it was
It
just
was, yeah.
chaos, just fully chaos. I was like, what's going on? That reminds me of
And I
another
don't
time.
remember
Yeah,
exactly what happened or who was responsible.
yeah,
We've all, it's like swimming. You're going to lose a boat eventually.
yeah. And I think the main culprit was that it was like a metal mesh rack on that van. That it was. I think kayaks were just slippery on that like
Oh,
metal
yeah.
mesh surface. That they
Yeah.
just. I think as soon as like the first boat just was able to just squirt out on that slippery surface, like game on.
Yeah.
So
Like I said, you paddle long enough and you're going to have some epic stories like you've shared with us
yeah,
today. And again, Brian, I just appreciate you so much, friendship through the years and coming on B-Flow sessions. Thank you so much.
dude, I'm honored, man. I'm yeah stoked to have been able to catch up with you today. This has been a really good time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And we gotta, next time we see each other, we got to be on the water.
100%.
All right. Well, take care, buddy. Hope to see you soon.
All right, you too, man. See ya.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of B-Flow Sessions, where we explore how paddlers find their flow on the water and in life. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, leave a rating, or share it with a friend. It truly helps us grow the community. And a huge thank you to Pucon Kayak Retreat for sponsoring today's episode. If you're ready for a world-class Chilean whitewater adventure, email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com and I'll help you get dialed in. Until next time, keep finding your flow.